Hello, Sharif here. And today we're going to be talking about, this is Tuesday, so we're talking about the end of our future. We will be discussing what needs to stop in our world for humanity to survive. Then on Thursday, we will discuss what needs to start in our world in order for humanity to survive. Welcome to an absolutely beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest. Last week, our weather was so crappy that I was saying, like, why do I live here? And then, ta-da! We have days like this, and that's one of the main reasons why I live here. Um, we have a really full agenda today, so let us get started with our meditation, and I'm getting my timer ready here, and so that I can make sure we stay on 5 minutes. Um, I am also going to get our candle going here, so that you don't have to look at me if you don't want to. And I'm going to ask us to, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And I'm going to ask that we take 3 deep breaths together. So breathe in, breathe out, and audibly. Breathe in. And breathe out audibly. Breathe in. And breathe out audibly. Continue breathing. Okay. And as you feel comfortable, I'm inviting you to open your eyes and to um, put your glasses back on if you wish. And uh, we need to begin. Um, this is our fourth week, and this is the where we are beginning the second part of this live stream, which is how do we become a mature human civilization? And today we're going to look at the what happens in the next 50 years over the course of 1,000 years. We need to start thinking big. And we're this tiny little handful of people, and we're having these big thoughts about what does humanity need to do, and what does humanity need to stop doing. That's today, in order for us to survive and thrive on a renewing and regenerating earth. All of our little issues, all the things that keep our minds focused on the status quo, those are the things we need to let go of. All the things that are going to open us up to looking at the world a different way, looking at the world in a different fashion. Those are the things we need to pay attention to. The most important thing, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this right now. The most important thing is for us to understand that we're living a story. For those of you who have read or actually reminded yourself going back and rereading, Creating a World That Works for All, I spend a good bit of the book, all of chapter 5, talking about story. What is a story? A story is what you do, it's how you live your life in accordance with how you believe the world works. We believe the dominant story on our planet right now is the breaker story. That story is leading us to destruction, the destruction of human beings, and we're taking an awful lot of beings with us, and that story has no future. Now, I've been saying that for 40 years. All of a sudden, because of the alignment of a few of the Earth and the Sun, it's going to give us a really nice lunar eclipse. Next week, it gives us a really nice solar eclipse. Because there's a comet on the way. There's all other things going on. There are all these people running around like, oh, this is the end of the world. It's like that world, the breaker world, has been ending for a long time. I've been talking about that end for 40 years. Now, it might end next week. It might end next month. It might end next year. But whenever it is, you're not going to hear me saying a single word that I haven't been saying for 40 years. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to look at things and understand things in a different way. Maybe what we're going to look at is the story itself. Right now, we're living the breaker story. It's time for that story to stop. Because this was an interesting combination of the Easter weekend along with Ramadan. I was spending time in a lot of my spiritual and religious books, doing a lot of reading. And one of the books that I had a very powerful connection with is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. It is not one of the official Gospels that survived um, the Council of Nicaea in 432 AD. Um, it would not have, because, and there's some of you who know this, and there are others of you who don't. It's not pertaining to what I'm talking about today. But one of the main thing that the Council of Nicaea did was take out of the Bible any book that made a positive reference to Mary Magdalene. It's the only common thread for of all the things um, that were done to the Bible at that time. If you can get your hands on a copy of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, you should read it, and then you'll see why it got taken out. But I'm as I was reading the book this weekend, I should say rereading, um, uh, I came across a quote that I think pertains to where we are right now. Um, the book was originally in uh, Aramaic or Greek or one of the other languages that were prevalent at that time. It was translated into French by the author Jean-Yves Leloup, and I hope I said that right, and then got translated into English. And this is one of the things he said in the book. He said, "It is imperative that we find a less fragmented, more holistic vision of humankind than the ones dominant today if we are to evolve in a positive sense." Okay, let's try that again. It is imperative that we find a less fragmented, more holistic vision of humankind than the ones dominant today if we are to evolve in a positive sense. He went on to say, those who change history create a fracture in the deterministic story of their era. See, a little got chopped off here. Uh, those who change history create a fracture in the deterministic story of their era. The founders of great spiritual traditions are like flashes of lightning in the dark of our ordinary history. So, right now, we're living at the end of ordinary history. And this is what the end looks like. Um, and for those of us who believe that we're looking at the death of society, the death of civilization, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to figure out what gets done next. For those of us who recognize that we are at the birth of the new human society, we take a deep breath and we roll up our sleeves and we say, okay, now it's time for us to get going here. Our challenge is it's all about story, and that story is based on our consciousness. We cannot change the story until we change the consciousness. If we try to work on the elements, we work on the elements based on our consciousness. If our consciousness is breaker consciousness, we try to get more of the same. We're trying to do more and more breaker society. Unfortunately, a lot of our ecological thinking is simply breaker consciousness in a new with a new suit on. It's how can we continue the status quo? How can we continue to exploit the earth? How can we continue to exploit each other um, in a kinder, gentler way? I think that that's not our challenge. I think our challenge is somewhere else. It's how do we see the world in a different way? How do we see the world with mender consciousness? Another way of asking that question is how do the keepers, the people who have never ever left the earth's way of doing things, what we call indigenous people or native people, how do they see the world? So let me um, lay this out for you a bit. Um, so these are the elements of consciousness. We're going to focus first on breaker consciousness. The conscious this is the centerpiece of the consciousness. I am separate. I'm separate from those people over there. I'm separate from those animals and plants over here. That's why I can just cut all the trees down and nothing happens. I'm separate from all the beings that are in my body. I'm separate even from myself and my own spirit. Those separations also have geographical consequences to them. I'm separate from those people on that continent over there. I'm separate from that king over there and all the people that he is commanding. I'm separate from those people in that political party there. Um, and because of that separation, I'm violent to all of them. I am not the idea that that they're not part of my humanity. My humanity is good, their humanity is bad. We can kill them. We can throw nuclear weapons on them. We can send out our troops and chop off their heads back in the days before gunpowder. That it's okay to be violent. We can have a restricted sense of our spirituality. Yes, the earth is one, God is one, but not their God. Their God is different. And we have not only a right to kill them, we have a duty to kill them. And that's where you get religions from. We stop looking at the world as a whole, and we start looking at it through the lens of we're the people who are right and they're the people who are evil. The breaker consciousness has primacy of money over all other values. Regardless of what I say my values are on Sunday or Friday or Saturday, money rules. And money rules my thinking. How I can even think about the future is dominated by money. And by a constant sense of expansion, that whatever I'm doing right now, I can keep doing that forever. And there'll be no negative consequences from that. Okay, so I think all of us who are aware of this will recognize that that is a very limited way of seeing the world. So, what is this mender keeper consciousness? Um, uh, the antidote to I am separate is we are one, and we have to start acting like that. We are one humanity. We are one living mass on this planet. We form a global nation. We form a nation without barriers, without security, keeping those people away from these people over here. We are violent toward none. And by none, I mean none. That we recognize that we're all in the same family. We recognize that the only way life exists on this planet is that life eats life. Within an hour and a half or so, I'm going to be eating food. That food constitutes life. I change that when I take it within myself. Eventually, this hunk of meat here will die, and I will turn into food for all of the other beings on the planet. And my goal is to get wrapped in a sheet and take to the landfill because I want to be worm food as soon as possible. I'm going to grow some good worms. Now, this body will. I will go and do something else. We'll have a discussion on what happens with that at some other point in time. We, the keepers and the menders, sharing a consciousness, will see that money is a secondary value. I think it's actually a fairly important value, maybe number 3 or 4 or 5 in the list of values that we should have, but definitely not number 1. This is a value that should not be in the driver's seat. And tied to that value is having growth within limits, recognizing that the limits that we face are limits that will work for the good of the earth, for the good of all living beings, and then down another rung for the good of all human beings, and then down another rung, the good of me. And if I put things in that order, I'm going to be able to see the world in a very, very different place, a different way. Let's see. I'm doing pretty well here in terms of time. So as we are looking at these 2 value structures, we see that exclusivity, I am separate, is the value structure of is the failing value structure. What is being born is inclusivity as the next step in human consciousness, at the seeing inclusivity as the next step in human actions and behaviors. So folks have been asking me for a long time, what should I do regarding the pending collapse? And what they want me to tell them is, where should I put my money? Where should I build my house? Should I be in gold and silver or Bitcoins? Where should all this go? And I keep saying, and what will become instantly clear once we do hit what I'm calling the great stop, is that none of those questions matter. What matters, and what I've been saying for a very long time, the question isn't how much money you've got. The question is, how many communities do you belong to? For most of us who are trying to load up on survival packs and getting, 1,000 pounds of dried powdered milk, I mean, there are people who are doing it. we won't have we won't be uh, living that way. Because if I'm trying to get just me or me and my family separated out, it's continuation of breaker thinking and it will fail. Okay. Um, and I'm not particularly worried about that failure, because if that's what you want, that's what you want. If you think it's going to work for you, good luck. And I'm talking to everybody else right now. So what is it that we are going to be looking at over the course of the next 50 years? And I'm going to share this. Um, so in the next 50 years, it's something that I'm calling the Great Stop. What's going to stop? Just about everything you can think of. Um, I want you to think in terms of food and water and energy, not as food, not as what you've got in your refrigerator right now, but food as a system. I don't want you to think of water as, will there still be water coming out of my tap if I turn the knob? I want you to think about water as a system. And I don't want you to think of energy as, how much gasoline do I have in my car? Or for those of you who have electrics, did I charge the battery last night? I want you to think about energy as a system. And when you're thinking about this, whatever system you are relying on right now will fail. And that's okay. Don't take a deep breath. It's okay. It will fail. I was talking with a friend recently, and he was talking about a breaker system. And he says, "Oh, that can't fail. There's no way you can have that system fail." And I said something to him that I don't think he heard. I said, if the system is made by human beings, it can and will fail. Once you get okay with that, then you can start seeing things differently. So right now, I get my food from Kroger's. And if you get your food from some other supermarket, and it may be organic, it may be poisoned, it may be kind of whatever way you want to have it, but that's where your food's coming from. Okay, sometime in the next 50 years, that's going to stop. That could stop next week. That could stop by the eclipse. You should be okay with this. You should have enough food on hand to get you into your new system. And I can tell you what the new system looks like. You will get your food from a human being or from a group of human beings. And you've had 40 years to figure out who those human beings are. You may only have 40 more days to figure it out. If though you want to tighten your blindfold and say, I'm not going to see this even deeper now. Okay, I'm that's your choice. I don't have anything else to say about that choice. We may, if you're around, I'll talk about that later. But for those of us who are looking at creating a Mender society, you will get your food from a community. I don't mean a community pantry or a food bank or anything like that. There are people who will be growing your food. Something I found out about just recently blew my mind. Oh, by the way, we're going to go about 5 minutes over the half hour here because I want to get these last couple of points out. Um, so I found out something that just blew my mind. For those of you who know about agriculture, you know that the Portland sits at one of the ends of one of the biggest agricultural zones in the United States. The Willamette River Valley, is one of the most fertile, productive areas in the United States. When the and I don't want to call them settlers because it was settled before they got here. I don't want to call them pioneers because there are other people who were here before them. When the European expansionists came to the Willamette Valley, they were just shocked at how productive the land was, how fertile the land was. And this was back in the days when our ancestors thought it was really important to grow food. And so they spent a lot of their time being food farmers. So right now, that's not what we grow in the Willamette Valley. We grow grass seed for golf courses. The Willamette Valley in Oregon supplies 75% of all the grass seeds in the world, in the entire world. The rest of the world only makes up 25% of the grass seed we grow. 400,000 acres of grass seed. So when they're going to put in a golf course in China, there's a lot of land in China, but they come over here and they buy our grass seed. Now, why do we take one of the most productive agricultural areas in the world and dedicate it to grass seed instead of feeding me and feeding the millions or so people in this area? There's a really, really good reason for it. It's called money. There's no other reason for it. Whatever you can grow that human beings can eat, you can make much more money growing grass seed for golf courses. Now, if we were wise, somebody somewhere would have said, that's really great. And sure, you can grow some grass seed, but we need human beings to eat, and we need to be able to eat what we're growing here. So unless you're putting cabbage down on the golf courses, which could be make an interesting game of golf. No, we're gonna keep growing that. We're gonna keep growing food, and our primary value. Primary value is not money. Our primary value is food. But no, we don't do that. None of our leaders do that. The Republicans don't do that. The Democrats don't do that. Anybody challenging them doesn't do that. We're the ones that have to do that. And we will be the ones that will do that. Okay. So we've gotten within the 5 years, and it may be within 5 days, we have to end breaker food, end breaker water, and breaker energy as we've known it. Speaking of water, we here in the Portland area are incredibly fortunate and incredibly blessed that some of our leaders have got their heads out of their butts and realized that our water here is a resource and have protected it and keep it safe. Portland is the largest city that sits on a gravity-fed pure water system. We figured that out. I'll tell you about the water system some other day. Um, in 10 years, we need to think about what I'm calling the Great Collapse. The Great Collapse is when all of the systems that we keep running with Band-Aids and paper clips and rubber bands, they just fail. They just stop. And at some point, we start recognizing we need new food systems, new water systems, new energy systems, and that there's no one that's going to do that except for us. We are the ones that will pull that together. And so we need to start pulling. Um, the breaker system's failing right now. It's failing right in front of our faces. But the breaker media keeps spinning the system so that to keep you from seeing it. What do I mean by the spin? This happened 3 or 4 days ago. New York Times had a major story on the spread of depression in the United States, especially and the group of the groups that are experiencing the highest levels of depression are young people. The 15 to 30 age group, the numbers were already high and they just went a lot higher. So they told you that, they said that. And in the same article, they put a spin on it. Oh, we'll tell you why that's happening. That's happening because young people are worried about the amount of debt they're carrying for college. Young people are concerned about the political future. Young people are concerned about drugs and alcohol. Now, all those things may be true, but that's not why the depression is at an expanded rate. It's at an expanded rate because there's something missing at the level of the heart, and this system can't even begin to address it because they don't address the heart. They don't address our spirit. They don't address the things that keep us going as beings. They act like the failure of breaker systems is the failure of humanity, and it is not. It's not the failure of humanity. It's the failure of how things have been handled over the course of the last, few years and few decades. We can change it, but in order to change it, we need more than me talking about it. We need you talking about it. That's one of the things that's holding us up right now. That we get tongue-tied when it's time for us to go out and start saying these things. What I'm talking about here is not popular. If I went to I have all the language I need in order to run in a Republican convention. I get people applauding, et cetera, et cetera. I can do the same thing, probably a little better on the Democratic side. Get people applauding, yeah. But that's not going to be the thing that actually changes our reality. Our reality is that we have to do this together. We have to do this together with the earth. And We have to do this in such a way that all of us, all beings, survive and thrive. Tomorrow, Thursday, my next day, um, we'll be talking about the other side of this. So this has been the collapse side. We're going to be talking about what needs to get started. And the things that we need to start are being started right now. We need to see that, and I will be sharing some of that with you. In the meantime, one of the things you can do is take the recording and give it to somebody else. Say, tell me what you think about this. And then give it to somebody else, and then get this conversation going. Okay. We focus on our inclusivity prayer, first of all, on yourself, second of all, on the other, third, all of us together, and then all beings together. So may I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. Thanks a lot, and I will talk to you on Thursday. Bye.